Water, an everyday essential for a living being, especially humans. We use it every day and without a thought. I mean, washing our hands, brushing our teeth, cooking, cleaning, drinking. But what is water and what exactly happens to it? Before we can ask ourselves what happens to water, we have to ask ourselves what is water and what is it made of? It's easier to ask ourselves what is water made of because that's what water is. Water is made up of two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. And as you can see here in the picture, the hydrogen atoms are on top and the oxygen atom on the bottom. That is because of polar molecules. They attract to each other to create a water molecule. That is what water is and what it's made of. The property of water is cohesion and adhesion. Cohesion is when water molecules stick to other water molecules. Adhesion is when water molecules stick to surfaces, such as tables. Well, why do we learn about properties of water, you say? Properties of water are almost as important as the water itself. It's the structure of the water. It's what makes the water into what it is today. It's so important for us to function and for any living being to function. It would be impossible to live without it. Any properties of water. Anyways, cohesion and adhesion, when working together, forms this, to a second grader, this kind of net over a water molecule. In early 6th grade, we had this experiment in science where we had to make a penny experiment and to see how many droplets of water could fit onto this penny. And it was amazing to see how cohesion and adhesion work together to not only make sure that the water stuck to the penny, but every water droplet stuck to the other water droplets. It was amazing, and when they were working together, so many drops of water could fit onto this one tiny penny, and it just blew me away. So anyways, that is properties of water, cohesion and adhesion. This is my drawing of the water cycle. As you can see, there are some aspects of the water cycle that are not commonly found in water cycle posters. Don't worry, we're only going to be touching on the ones that are commonly found. Our first step, condensation. Condensation is the act of when a gas, such as water vapor, turns into a liquid, which is then stored into clouds. Which brings me to our next point, the atmosphere. The atmosphere, oh, where do we begin? It's the superhighway of everything. It's the land, it's the sky, it's the water. It protects us from solar flares and anything coming our way that could be harmful towards Earth. We couldn't live without the atmosphere. Earth would be just a dry planet. It would be boring. It would be a lifeless planet. Imagine that. Anyways, our next one is precipitation. Precipitation is the act when the liquid needs to come out of the clouds. It's like it's squeezing, kind of like when you're going to the bathroom. I know it's gross. The clouds then release that liquid onto our land, which can come out as rain, snow, sleet, or hail, which then goes into our rivers, which goes into our lakes, which then goes into our oceans, and starts a cycle. This is called surface runoff. The water has two paths. It's kind of like life. You have evaporation, which is the act when liquid turns into a gas. It's the opposite of condensation, you might say. Evaporation actually triggers condensation because everything works together in the water cycle. The second path is infiltration, or as I like to call it, percolation, even though they're different. Infiltration is permeable. It's a permeable it's when the ground is permeable so the water can flow through. Percolation is when water is flowing. It's the act of when water is flowing through the ground. It's really confusing. But then the water that goes into the ground goes into groundwater storage or groundwater flow to go into our oceans, which then triggers the cycle all over again. The water cycle is constantly moving, and it will never stop. If it stops, then our water is out. So we gotta make sure to protect our water so no part of the water cycle stops. This is a map of Connecticut and its major rivers. To see the major rivers, you have to look at the blue squiggly lines that look like rivers that dump into our watershed, which is the Atlantic Ocean. On the west side, you can see the Housatonic River as an example. Anyways, the blue outlined cities are the ones that are planning on how to save our watershed. After all, it has a bunch of pollution in it and we want to save it. Which brings me to my next point. This is my drawing of groundwater. As you can see, it is separated into sections. Up here is the top section, or the surface, the land that we walk on, which goes down to the unsaturated zone, or the dry zone, which is made up of soil. The water table, the next section, separates the soil from the aquifer. Which brings me to our next point. The saturated zone, or the moist zone, is made up of the aquifer, which cleans the water. And here's my title, groundwater. If you were to build a well, you would have to build a well from over here to all the way down here, or the end of the surface to the end of the aquifer. I know, that's really long. But in order to get clean drinking water, you have to go through this entire process. That can take up to an hour or 15 minutes. Anyways, this is my drawing of groundwater. How many of you have been in a vehicle to get to a place? Yeah, everyone raises their hands. I mean, it's something, it seems so harmless, yet it's so harmful. I mean, look in this picture. You don't see any smoke, you don't see anything, you don't see the effects. Even the people look sad because of the traffic, but it has a playful tone to it. Well, look at this next picture. Look at all the smoke clouding. I mean, it's ridiculous. All this driving is affecting us. Now, look at how it's affecting our water. Look at all the dead fish. Driving causes emissions, which causes acid rain. That can kill our ecosystem, our animals, our plants into the water. We want to drink clean water. We want to have everything, but all this driving, all these human activities, it's killing our water. Our next human activity that is killing our water too, you won't believe it. It's farming. Farming seems harmless. It seems almost good to the environment. But all this sewage runoff from farming, yeah, and there's a lot of sewage in farming. It's being dumped into our oceans. Why would you do that? I mean, at least dump it into a landfill. Our oceans, it provides so much for us, yet we care so little about it. I don't know what to say. This brings me to my next point. Why we should keep Danbury clean. There are many reasons. Imagine walking in a park and you see a piece of trash. And then you see another piece of trash. And by the time you know it, there's trash all around. Would you really like that in our city of Danbury? The city of Danbury is a pretty amazing place, and we want to keep it that way. We want to keep it clean, fresh, green. But everywhere I go, it seems that there's at least one piece of trash on the floor. Do you like that in your city? Our city of Danbury is flooded with trash. Pollution. We have a lot of cars in Danbury, I'll give you that. But there are a lot of cities with cars. But everywhere I go, I smell this awful smoky smell from the cars. And I know it's not very descriptive, but it's disgusting and it's a bad smell. We don't want that in our city. We want this fresh nature smell. And we want this good smell. A smell that we can wake up in the morning and be like, I love life. But can we have that with our city of Danbury flooded with trash and pollution? No. And the second thing, we want our water to be clean. But when I went to the Hatters Park, and you know that lake in Hatters Park, it was just, I saw water bottles dumped in there, and it's like our water systems are just some trash can for everyone. Is that seriously what we want our city of Danbury to look like? Is this what we want ourselves to represent? It's ridiculous. We shouldn't make a fool of nature. We shouldn't trash it, and we should honor it. We should just, it's, nature is so valuable to us, yet we treat it so poorly. Why is that? I wish there was some way we could help. Oh, wait. Like every bad situation, there's always some hope. There are ways you can help too. Simple ways like taking shorter showers. We don't need to take that long of showers. I know it's winter and we want that warm blanket shower over us, but come on. Would you rather have clean drinking water and water supplies for a lifetime or have that long shower? Another way is that we can stop dumping trash around the place. Find a trash can, or better, find a recycling bin. That will reduce our landfills, which can add more space for nature and less trash runoff into our water sheds. And you can also post posters everywhere. Notify anyone. If you see someone throwing away trash into the water, pick it up, or better yet, tell them off. We are strong. We may be small kids, but we can make this world a better place. To conclude, our water is very important to our society, and it's everything and everywhere. That is what water is. What happens to it is difficult to explain. It can be evaporation, condensation, the water cycle basically, or it can be pollution. The jeopardy of our water is at stake. It's water levels are getting lower, and it's harder for countries to get fresh water. But you can help. As I explained to you before, there are many ways you can help, and you can start doing them right now. The future depends on you. I know that's a big responsibility, but our water is important. And the fact that it's at stake is even worse. We have to honor our water, because it's a living being, just as John Merrill said.